Hello, everyone. Here we are.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Welcome. Glad to be back once again.
Yes, we are back.
It is another weekend and time for our conversations once again. So welcome everybody coming on board. Glad to have you connecting up with us. Let's talk for a little bit.
Yes.
Let yourself be known on Facebook. Love to have you connect up and know that you're there. So we're just getting warmed up here. Just getting started. It looks kind of dark.
It does.
It
does. It seems a little bit darker than it should be. A little. Oh, it does. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's a little.
Move it.
All right. Anyway, as good as gonna get today. It is bright outside. It's still nice and sunny, and so as a result of that, our studio is affected by the light behind us.
Exactly.
I think that's what it is. But time is changing. Do you believe we're already past like the longest day of the summer of the year? Already the solstice is already passed.
Right.
So we are like already at that point where the days are getting shorter.
Already. Oh my goodness.
That's what that means. And that's a little scurry.
Yes.
Unfortunate. But what can you say? So that means from here, it just continues on until it starts getting colder again. I'm sorry.
Don't mention that.
I didn't say the S word. So
well, it's inevitable.
Some things are.
It really
inevitable.
is.
But for right now, we're kind of enjoying a sunny day. It's been raining like all here in Rochester. It's like been really a rainy summer.
It has.
Thus far, the past few weeks. Now the new flowers are planted kind of like that.
Yes, they're blooming. They are thriving.
They're enjoying it quite a bit. They're just getting nice and deep green and lush, and flowers
getting new buds.
Up. All that kind of good stuff. And at least it's not raining all day, right? You have just about every day it's rained, but it rains a few hours and it stops.
Well, it rains at night. It rains at night.
To me the best thing.
Yes, and then it sometimes early in the morning.
Yes. Unless you're out camping.
Well, then that's a problem.
If you're out camping and it rains at night.
Like our neighbors.
Yeah, that's not always the most fun thing to listen to all night long outside of your tent or whatever it is.
Right. Kind of puts it, dampens the, no pun intended, the fun of camping.
I get
puts a damper on it.
I get it. Dampens it. Other than that, it's having it at night, you go to sleep and it rains and you get up in the morning and it's good because it soaks in real nice to the grass and everything. And in the morning you get up and the sun comes out and you get it rolling, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of a pretty good way to do it.
It is.
But anyway, it is what it is. We take it as it comes. And here we are once again. Good evening, everybody. Once again, hello to Natasha. Glad to have you there.
Hello.
Those that are hiding in the background, we haven't heard from you yet. Waiting to see what's going to happen. Hello, everybody. We're glad to have you with us. So tonight, what's going on? What's been happening? What's happening this weekend? What's happening with you?
Well, what's happening with me?
Let's start there. Let's just chat there for a minute.
Let's just start there. I have been released from servitude.
You have a new favorite song.
Oh, yeah. I made it out all right.
Singing it many, many times per day.
God's perfect timing.
Now, why do you say that?
I had the opportunity to actually retire.
Yes.
Yes, and it is a beautiful thing.
Looking pretty good for a retired person.
Yes, come on. God is good. God is good, and it is not the end. It is just the beginning.
Another chapter, right?
Another chapter to some new things and to my next level of doing things my way. Well, I won't say it necessarily on my way, but on my time. Yes, on my time. There's a time when you just seem to have everybody's back. Well, you know what? And it's time to be around people that has my back.
Oh, all right now.
Okay.
All right. It's going to be like that now.
Yes, for all those good things that are in store.
That's definitely another chapter.
It is. And I'm happy about it.
It used to be that retirement was like kind of the end.
Yeah.
But these days retirement is more like another chapter.
It really is. And it's a mindset. You have life, you have health, you have a sound mind, and that's my mindset.
I mean, hopefully
I can do some things.
A lot of people work, and by the time they retire, there's not a lot of life left in them. You know, so it's good to be able to retire and still, you know, I mean, retirement is supposed to be about a transition from doing what you have to do
to doing what
you choose to do and want to do, you know, and so you spend your time the way you want to spend it. In fact, we had some other friends that just retired from ministry a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And he's decided he's going fishing. So that's his plan right now, to do what he wants to do. Right. And still be able to minister, you know, but not have to be under the pressure of direct leadership, direct responsibility all the time, et cetera, so forth. And so, you know, retirement enables us to transition to spending our time the way we want to spend it, or not spending it the way we don't want to spend it. Right. So that's a blessing.
It really is. So I'm looking forward to, you know, my next chapter.
And there's still lots to be done.
There is still, you know what? I feel like I just freed up some time to do things, other things. I will be working, but I will work differently.
And you know, you're just trailing behind my brother. Who retired in the last year.
Exactly.
And has been working like a dog ever since. But doing, again, the other types of things that he wants to do. So retirement.
And you know, and I didn't have to retire. Yeah. But I chose to retire because this is the right time, you know, for me to do so.
So anybody
that
wondering,
we can do other things.
Yeah, so anybody wondering, I'm not there yet. Somebody has to continue to work for a little bit longer. So we're working that grind for a little while longer.
But you know, you have to plan. If you plan properly, you know, I've been reading some things, and it says, you know, it should be the goal to retire as early as you can. But that takes planning and preparation.
As early as it makes financial sense to do so.
Exactly.
You know, there are some jobs that you tap out on. Right. You can't advance any further on it. You've gotten the maximum out of it that
you don't wish to.
Or that you're going to, you know, you've maxed out what you're going to get towards retirement. Right. And so then you can shift and do things and actually make money other ways.
Exactly.
Even over the top of that. So there are strategies to retiring as well, and getting yourself prepared to maximize that. You don't have to work, hopefully. You don't have to work till the day you die. You don't want to do that.
No, you don't want to do that. And, you know, and a lot of cases, you can actually make more money retired than you can continuing to work.
The other thing you want to do is you want to learn how to make money work for you.
Exactly.
Instead of you always having to work for money.
That's right.
You know, so there are a lot of wise things that people can do. And a lot of it involves starting early. But even if you've missed that boat, you know, you have to start where you are and build from there. And you have to think forward to do so.
And, you know, and it takes consistency. You have to be consistent at something. You know, you just can't keep bouncing and jumping from job to job. You have to accumulate something. Like they say, a rolling stone gathers no moss. You got to be a little consistent. Be consistent in your life with something.
Hey, Justin. Hey, man.
Hey, Justin. Hey, how are you? Haven't seen you in a very long time or heard from you. You know what? You need to call me.
You're in trouble now. You're in trouble now.
Yes, Justin.
You done did it. Okay.
Call your auntie.
Yeah. So, you know, this afternoon we were at an event here in Rochester.
Yes.
And it was an interesting event based on a very concerning set of circumstances. We were at Hudson Avenue at the Walmart.
Yes.
That was there, an event that was sponsored by our good friends. He said he needed a number, by the way. Y'all got to work that out.
I'll work that out. We'll work that out.
But
okay.
The event sponsored by you know, Bishop and Pastor Wells.
Yes.
That took place from Victory Living, that took place there at the site in the parking lot at Walmart on Hudson Avenue.
Walmart. Listen, people.
So for those who are not from Rochester, we had an incident a couple of weeks ago, middle of the day, broad daylight, where some shooting started right in the middle of the parking lot. And people were shooting at each other right across all the people that were coming in and out of the store. And it became quite a scene there in the middle of the day.
The middle of the day.
And highly irregular experience for us here in Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
But it really has followed a year. And I honestly think it really started from last year
Mm-hmm.
of just people just shooting at each other and killing each other.
It's
you
crazy.
know, we did at least one funeral last year.
Oh my goodness.
So apparently a random shooting. Somebody was shooting out and killed a young man. And we were responsible for that funeral last summer.
Yes, it was last summer.
And it just seemingly has gotten worse since then.
Yeah, it really has. And you know, going to that funeral, or you know, preaching and speaking at that funeral, it being the people were young people.
Yeah.
It was something I have never really experienced. I have heard of young people passing and how the funeral ends up being. But to actually be there and see the culture of these young people was something beyond anything that I have ever seen. And it was not good. It was scary. Yeah. I mean, it was like they weren't following any rules.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, I paused for a minute to explain it because you can see the difference in this generation. You know, by the way, just a shout out again to Bishop Wells and Pastor Wells.
Yes.
This is the event that they hosted this afternoon. And it was a very good event. You know, people coming together from a variety of different aspects of our community.
Right.
You had political leaders there. You had people who were there from different organizations.
Yes.
Of course, you had clergy like myself that were there. You know,
fraternities, sororities
that were there. You know, all different kinds of groups League. That came together.
Yes.
You know, and not only talked, we prayed there. We tried to leave an imprint in this spot where this had just happened. Yes. And not only again this, but they're saying right now that the city of Rochester, and we can talk beyond this, but the city of Rochester is right now on a trajectory to break its all-time record number of murders for in a year. You know, projection right now is in the 70s, and I think the record was, I remember several years ago when it was pretty intense, and there was a lot of concern. And then things died down for a bit in terms of that level, that frequency of killings and murders, but it's gone up dramatically to the point where, you know, you turn on the news every night and somebody has been either shot or killed literally every day.
Yes.
And it's expanded itself now into all different areas of the city. It's no longer just in the city. There have been a couple of them for a few days in a row out here in Greece, in the suburb of Rochester. It has intensified.
Yes.
And has, again, spread itself throughout, which is really, really concerning. This back and forth shooting. They've had assassination style shootings of just young people.
Yes.
You know, a week or two ago, a couple weeks ago, a young woman driving in her car with her kids
children.
In the back.
Yes.
And people pull up in cars, come up beside her, and just start shooting in the car and just literally assassinate her and then run off.
Right.
Didn't shoot the kids, but the trauma of
the children,
exactly, seeing all that happen
to their mother. It's
crazy.
Something they will never forget.
Yeah.
And they will be affected.
Yeah.
You know, they will have to have therapy, but it is something that will stick with them and stay with them for a lifetime. And this is the beginning of how we have adults that start that have issues and that have problems. It's from childhood trauma.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, was the cycle of violence.
Exactly.
That it begins to develop in psychology and young people's minds, the culture, et cetera, so forth, that continues and expands if it's not somehow stopped.
Exactly.
You know, it's like you know, they used to show when you have a bomb, you have a fuse, and the fuse just goes. If you don't somewhere cut off that fuse, it's just going to come and it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse, and it becomes a cycle.
Right.
And you have to break that cycle.
So we see right now such a accelerating pace of trauma and confusion going on in our young people. And we're talking specifically about Rochester, but Rochester is only one of many places throughout the country where this is going on. Listening to the things happening in Chicago, especially over the 4th of July weekend. I think they had like 59 killings or something like that over the weekend. The 4th of July weekend last week in Chicago. It's just, and it used to be in the 30s, now almost 60 in one weekend. It's crazy what is happening. And it's going across many different cities, not just any one. So it suggests that it's not just a local problem, but it is a societal problem throughout the country. And it's particular to our youth and young adults.
Youth, young adults, and people of color.
And
African American people. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to say African American people, only because I know of several African people, young people, that some of them are first generation Americans, and I don't know if it's culture shock of them coming to the United States and wanting to acclimate or fit in. But they are these Africans, some of these African children that I know personally. So I'm not speaking, of something that I heard. I'm speaking of something that I know that is very concerning to me. So it's something really bad is going on.
Part of the thing that concerns me about that, and we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but that's okay. A lot of these young African boys and girls that you're talking about, that you knew in high school. When these things are coming out, it seems that they've changed a lot. This is not the character of things that you knew when you're in and we're just talking about a group that you knew,
that I know,
right, in Syracuse, and how much they end up in these situations that suggest that they've changed or their environment has just not been conducive of the character that you saw in high school. And
Also, I think some of those children that are coming here from other countries, a lot of them have already been traumatized. And we don't necessarily know it all the time. They will share that with someone that they feel comfortable with, but they have already come from some type of trauma, war and what have you, hunger, violence, survival, and having to survive. And, and then they come over here to this culture.
From areas like Somalia.
Exactly. And it has to be a very difficult transition. But, not to get off of the topic of what's going on with our African American children.
Well, first, the connection though to that is what we were talking about earlier about these young children being exposed to this killing of their mother. It's a cyclic effect. They grew up in this kind of environment, and it comes back. It can come back. It
comes back. That's my point.
But in terms of what's happening here in the United States, again, I don't know if it's purely African American, if it's I don't know how the Latino community is being affected by this, or other areas of color, or if it's purely an African American thing. It certainly is involved with culture, and there has not been a lot solidly said as to what the root of all these killings are about. Is it drugs? Is it some kind of turf war? Is it gang related, one group against another? You get to the point where you have to assume there's some vendetta type action that's taking place. Speaking at least here in Rochester, what's happening by what we're seeing, you're not seeing like remember back in the day, especially like in LA, it used to be the Bloods and the Crips, and you'd see red versus blue. It was very clearly a distinction of one group trying to get at the other. It doesn't seem to be anything that clearly defined at this point, but there's certainly a vendetta type mindset that's going on where somebody kills somebody, and as a result somebody else kills somebody else, and back and forth, and it's just ongoing right now. It would make you think there has to be some kind of situational side versus side thing going on, but you're not hearing really the police talk about it. They finally kind of the sheriff finally jumped up and said a couple weeks ago that it's gang related. The city police would not say that. And now you have, all the way through the state, which just shows you where this problem is at. The state is organizing against violence. Rochester being one of the areas that they're bringing together. The feds have gotten involved.
The feds are involved
in Rochester.
Yes. Well, you know what? That is an indication that this is much bigger than just the city.
There's a major
it's
situation
it's
that's
major,
going on.
Right. There's some kingpins somewhere.
Yeah, and somebody's trying to trace down
cartels
the roots of really what's happening. You know, but it's very disturbing. You know, I don't want to sound stereotypical, but oftentimes these are the types of behaviors that tie into an environment of poverty.
It's true.
And, you know, before we go into that, you know, we've seen things over the years happening in certain areas of the city where, you know, it's gotten really rough and bad. And again, from time to time, there was either shooting in a certain area or there was, you know, violence happened on the street. In certain areas of the city, that's happened for a long time, but it has just escalated into this turf war back and forth thing in certain areas of the city where, you know, it's becoming so common to hear people say, you know, how much gunshot they're hearing at night.
Yes.
Or, you know, literally bullets coming through their walls.
Yes.
You know, there have been churches where bullets have come through the church while people were in the church. It's just a whole nother scale
people are at
level.
Home. Yeah.
Right.
As well.
You know, it's a whole new scale of violence and almost warfare with guns, not just fighting, not just put up your dukes, not even just knives, but just guns coming out of everywhere at everybody. And so, you know, there's a real concern and question as to what is going on. But I was saying that this kind of behavior oftentimes does tie to poverty-stricken type of conditions.
Yes.
The things that at least I have been concerned about, and I'm sure others have been for the past 10 to 20 years, 10 to 15 years at least, is our low graduation rates. And at least the past 15 years, we've been watching this decelerated graduation. And, you know, at times we were talking about less than, 30% or whatever of young people, African-American young people graduating from high school.
Right.
And you been asking the question, what's happening to these kids? What's going to happen to them? How are they going to survive? How are they going to engage themselves in society? How are they going to be able to afford homes or be able to afford families and children, which are inherently coming out of all of these things, And so you get this cycle going on of people who are not prepared to be successful in the community. And the community, frankly, can only absorb a certain number of that type of person, meaning that someone that's not graduating, that's not really prepared to take on higher learning or more sophisticated job market. Hey, Dolores, how are you doing?
Hi, Dolores.
Thank you for joining. The society is only able to handle so much of that. You absorb it. In some cases, the community helps pay and supplement. But, they're saying right now in correlation that Rochester is one of the lowest poverty or highest poverty, whichever you want to say, areas in its city versus any of the cities in the state. And so the correlation again between violence and poverty stricken, because if you don't have a lot of opportunities, you end up getting desperate, doing what you need to do. You got to find some kind of way to make money and survive.
Exactly. It's almost like an implosion.
But yeah, it really, it's an explosion from within,
within,
from underneath and within,
and it comes out. And this is what we're seeing when with all of the murders and the killing. It's like they say that the saying that a riot is the voice of the unheard. So that's why I'm thinking of an implosion, and they're unruly.
Really, to some degree, I'm saying this was somewhat predictable because, I'm not trying to brag on this, but again, at least 8 years ago, I was talking to some of our political officials in Rochester about this graduation rate issue. And I was telling them at the time, if we don't do something about that, then all the other supplemental programs we're doing are just not going to be able to keep up. They're not going to make up the difference. If our kids are not graduating, if they're not prepared to be independently successful in our communities, then there's a huge problem that's underway. And so is this tied to that? is it tied to the pandemic and all the things that have happened over the past year or 2 years? You know, a couple of years ago, the biggest concern priority-wise amongst our young people were things like suicide and depression. Mm-hmm. Suicide rates were just going up, going up like crazy. Mm-hmm. Depression and amongst our young people going up like crazy a couple of years ago. Then the pandemic hit and the whole society was essentially shut down and depressed.
Yes.
Repressed at a minimum.
Repressed, oppressed,
if you don't say depressed, it was definitely repressed.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so you have a whole year plus of repression of a group that's already frustrated, suicidal, trying to figure out who they are, loss of identity. And then in the midst of this, you start all of this, you get into all of the battles that have been going on surrounding policing and negative impacts on our people. And then somehow flushing out of that, this murder rate just starts ramping up. Like second half of last year, it just starts accelerating and then back and forth, getting more and more intense.
Right.
It's like all these things are it's like kindling to a fire, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like all these things setting themselves up for, you strike a match and stuff's going to burn. And right now stuff is really burning. And, the fact that you don't just see it in Rochester,
right,
suggests that it's more than just a local problem.
Oh, it is.
But it's something that is consistently going on throughout, in particular, the cities within our country.
Yes.
By the way, if you guys have comments, thoughts, please jump in. We're kind of walking through this and processing it here ourselves.
Yeah.
But if it gives you some thoughts, please jump in into what you think about it. So I mean, you look at kind of the cause of what's bringing all this, trying to understand what this is all about. But the real question is, what can we do to reverse this at this point? Or, to some degree, is it too late? And I don't mean to say that as if give up, it's all over. But like I said, you get enough kindling right out west right now. They have the fear, that constant fear with all this heat going on, all the dryness going on, of forest fires.
Again, right.
When a certain fire gets lit, trying to put it out is a traumatic process.
Yes, it is.
And so with all the things that have been shifting in the culture and lining themselves up the way that they have, the question is, what can we do to back this down before it totally explodes and flames out?
Well, I think we are already at the point of we're seeing an explosion. As far as the low graduation rate, that has been discussed for many years now. This is not just started being discussed within the past 2, 3, 4, 5. It's been discussed for a very long time. 10 to 15.
Thing.
So now here we are.
And we know all the trouble we had, especially in Rochester with the school district a few years ago.
Exactly.
It's all kind of gone quiet because of all these other things. But 2, 3 years ago, we had superintendents coming in and out. We had money disappearing. We had huge deficit.
And you have the state. You have the state even coming in and trying to correct the problem.
Now, the graduation rates, my understanding have gotten better. Still not phenomenal, but headed in some aspect the right direction. Honestly, haven't heard much about it the past couple of years, especially like last year, because last year was like, okay, if we could just get people to say they're getting schooling because they aren't in school.
Well, last year
and just graduate everybody, because what are we going to do?
That was something very different.
Who knows how many graduated last year? Because how do you judge graduation last year? It was a bizarre data point.
It really was.
Everything that's going on.
It was stressful. It was extremely stressful for not only the students, but it was extremely stressful for educators.
But if you think in the reality of things that our children were actually better prepared to graduate last year than prior, that's probably not a reality. Did we allow some people to graduate despite of? Who knows? It's just such a mess last year.
And they were still given the test. They still had to take the test.
Right. And
the state test, SATs, all that.
I don't know how they applied it, because there was just so much going on last year, so who knows? We never really heard the numbers, the graduation numbers last year. So I don't know. You haven't heard from that for this year either. But, it's a really complex issues and entangled issues going on that are setting up for really bad things to happen. And so the question is what we're seeing with all this violence just kind of a symptom, a sign of all of these things that have been lining themselves up over the past few years. And again, how do we shut this down? How do you turn all this violence around? We were talking about that funeral we did last year. Let's go back to that now, because we were talking about the mindset of the young people that were at that funeral. And this is the first time I did a funeral, and it was like literally all young people there. Just young people that are there for the funeral for somebody that that they knew and was lost. And just watching them
and their behavior, their interaction, their seemingly lack of emotion. Did you pick up on that? I'm not saying that they didn't feel emotion. However, you did not see it.
It just seemed like this was a whole different, I don't want to just say generation, but just a whole different mindset, attitude, character, freelance, c'est la vie, don't really care what happens in life kind of group. The mindsets of the aspirations seem just very, very different,
void,
and right. And so where that's going to carry them, what their intents are and trying to be and expectations are of themselves or whatever, it's a scary thing.
It really
when
is.
The mindset starts shifting to the idea that, hey, this dying in our 20s is our reality. And this is what we should expect. It's one thing to lose somebody at that age who in violence. It's a whole nother thing to start becoming tolerant or accepting or expecting of that. And by the way, after that young man was killed, just a few weeks later, I think a female cousin of his was also shot and killed. Right. And it goes on and on and on. Some of the pastors in the city that host some of these funerals, and they're like multiple funerals a week that they're having in this age bracket. It is just out of control. And that was last year, and the rates have ramped since then.
Yes.
So, I think they said there's been 38 murders thus far this year. This is July. So the first half of the year, 38 murders. I don't know, what is that in what? 27 weeks, 28 weeks, 38 murders. So more than one a week. 120, I think, people shot and injured this year from gunshot. There's a serious escalation and epidemic that's going on.
Yes.
So, the event that we went to today does not fix it.
No.
But it at least starts raising
it addresses,
attention.
You're right.
And I think it's so important for us. And when I say us, I mean all of us. I mean pastors, I mean churches. We have to learn how to cross bridges and work together. We need right now to come in alliance and in terms of whatever we can do. There is a natural element of this, things we can do to help take on young people, to help draw young people, connect with young people, inspire young people, mentor young people, get involved, get engaged.
Yes.
And then there's a spiritual element. And, one of the things that I think we were pointing to in this event earlier, I'm going to show it again just because of the concept of the event. And it's not the first, it's not the only one. There have been several types of events going on, but this involved a lot of different voices in the community, and the concept of the different voices in this community trying to come together and align. Everybody does not do the same thing,
right?
But if we can align the things that we do well with each other, you had law enforcement officers that were connected here. They're trying to stop crimes, trying to help overcome crimes, figure out who did stuff. Put hindrances to things. You have local political leaders. They have a part of this process too, to help try and change some things happening in the community. Grassroots community leaders, faith-based leaders. We don't all necessarily do the same thing. Neither do we have to do what everybody else already does. But we all need to do our role well, and we need to align those
and contribute,
roles.
So
the
collaborate.
The local grassroots community leaders, all the different groups that have been working in the community and getting out there, they have a role and a position and of influence that hopefully they can help with. Local political leaders, have a role to play in getting things aligned in politics and law enforcement. They have a role. Faith-based community does have a role. We can't just sit back in our churches and watch, but we in particular have a unique role because our role is spiritual.
Yes.
So yes, we can help directly in the community. Yes, we can organize. Yes, we can be a voice, but we have a spiritual role, which is absolutely essential. We are the ones that interject the presence of God into the spiritual attacks that are ongoing. And so we have that role and responsibility to step into that, to enter into that effort. Right. So, that's part of what the role we were trying to play in this event today. We have, politicians there that are speaking what they're going to do. We have group leaders speaking what they're going to do. You have people from the sheriff's office and local police departments that are speaking what we're trying to do and how we're trying to engage with the community. Yes. We in the churches have a role as well, because we can do what none of those groups really specialize in. We can bring in the presence and the power of God.
Yes.
And so that's ultimately our effort. And along with all the other things that we're doing, but unity in our efforts is so important. I don't really care who leads what effort. Right. If I'm available and we have something to add, I want to throw in whatever we've got towards it. However we can be of help, however we can be of support, we want to be there with our people, with our individuals, even with finance, whatever we can provide, time, availability, voice, it doesn't matter, and there's several groups around town that are doing things. I think that's great. I think we should all get together. And if we can't, then get to the one that you can get to. For me, like a lot of times, some of the events happen midday or during the day or during the week. And because I work a job, it's not always feasible. Somebody has one on Saturday. Hey, if I can get there, I want to be there. Somebody has one in the evening. If I can get there, I can be there. So that's, I think we have to have a mindset to come together and support each other right now.
Yes, I agree.
So very traumatic things happening, and we need to see anything we can do to help. Right now, let's about quarter of, let's switch the subject a little bit, because let's go to the positive for a minute. One positive thing that came out this week was a certain young lady who is pretty amazing.
Yes, she is.
Her name is Zaila.
Avant-garde.
Zaila Avant-garde.
Yes.
Is a pretty amazing young lady. Some of you may have heard this young lady is the first African-American, not just female, but first African-American winner of the National Spelling Bee.
Yes.
She got an offer of full LSU scholarship. No, girl.
Yes.
So she is the first African-American winner, an 8th grader, 14 years old. And, has been working on this for 2 years.
Yes.
Right. And after 2 years, she comes right to the top and succeeds. There have been other African-American students in the finals competition. I've seen them before.
Yes.
But she's the first one to actually break through and win it. Yes. And so congratulations to her. Yes. But you know what? She is not just a smart young lady.
Oh, she's something. She's something special.
She got some skill.
Oh, yes, she does.
She is a basketball player.
Yes.
And excelled she's basketball player. Check this out.
And she's in the Guinness World Record.
She has 3 different world records. Guinness Book World Records. This is her just playing around, right? Some of the trick stuff that she does. Incredible dribbling has earned an appearance in the shoe commercial besides Stephen Curry. Chance to perform with the Harlem Globetrotters. Same girl. Right? She obviously is not spending all her time studying words, because she got some skills.
Yes, she does.
And not only does she have, dribbling skills, but the girl can actually play. She actually, this is her right here going after this ball. She can play the game.
Yeah.
And she's already, looking at being able to play in the WNBA someday. She's obviously just got an LSU scholarship. She's in 8th grade and she got a full scholarship.
Exactly. 14 years old.
You can be sure it's not the only one she's going to get.
Yeah.
This this child has a lot of skill. So she's going to be around. We'll be watching out for her for a while because she has clearly a lot to offer. So talk about a positive example, that, of what can be done. Somebody to aspire to, at 14 years old, it's like, let's follow in her footsteps.
Yeah, right.
let's be like her, because a lot of other people want to be like her right now. So incredible story of what's going on, what she represents.
Yeah.
And got a chance to hear her. I think she's, by the way, Jamaican background.
Is she really? I know she lives in Louisiana.
Yeah, I think
but
she's
you think
Jamaican
she has
background
a Caribbean background? Okay.
Yep. But I got a chance to listen to her interview on ABC yesterday, day before, Friday, whatever it was. You listen to her speak, very intellectual, very sharp.
I'm not surprised.
Smart.
Yes.
And very confident. I was really impressed at how much self-confidence she had.
Oh, yeah.
You ask her, what are you going to do? Are you going to do this? Oh, yeah, I'm ready. She's ready. She's going.
Yeah. She said she wants
aspirations.
She says she wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize.
I didn't miss that.
Well. Yeah.
She's going for it.
She's going for it.
She has great aspirations.
Yes.
So, she is a great achievement in and of herself and a real success story to see what's happening with her. We need aspirations like that. Yes. And you have to wonder how many kids there are out there with that kind of potential that for whatever reason, it's not being demonstrated. It's not being brought out of them.
There are kids with that kind of potential that get lost through the cracks.
3 Guinness World Records. That's crazy, right? Yeah. Says she competed against 208 other contestants from 5 countries to win the championship. Won Thursday night's final by, correct me spelling the word, Mariah.
Yes.
M-U-R-R. Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all know how to spell that?
M-U-R-R-A-Y-A.
I want to see who knew how to spell it because I wouldn't spell it right either. I don't think Mariah, right? Mariah Carey, right? No, but she.
You know what it is?
What?
It's a tropical tree. I learned that from her.
Okay. You learned that from her.
Yes, right? I did.
She already knew that.
Yes, she did. Yeah. She spelled it out.
Along with a whole bunch of other stuff that we have no idea.
Exactly.
Look, even the spell thing spelled Mariah.
Yes.
The name instead of spelling it the way we spelled it. So anyway, it's congratulations to her. Hopefully she's able to set an positive example of the potential of what's out there and what can be done. I do believe that in a lot of cases, our children have just given up on either the capability or the desire to achieve certain things. Why do I bother in school? Why do I need school? What do I need to do this for? Or they just, I experienced several years ago working with a lot of teenagers that were coming into the school district and school systems and just did not have any self-confidence of what they could do. I mean, they were quitting before they even tried. Either they didn't feel like they could do it or they didn't want to do it. But in a lot of cases, it really disturbed me because they just automatically assume I can't do spelling. I can't do English. I can't do this. I can't do math. No challenge.
Well, you know what? Some of that starts at home.
Yeah.
It starts with the environment. If you have children, I find, and I could speak of someone who I admire for the way that they raise their children. If the home environment is encouraging education, if at home they are telling that they can be anything that they want to be, if you are pushing them, you're pushing these children at home, they have a better chance at succeeding. But if you have a household of people that, of adults that themselves feel underprivileged, they feel depressed, they feel that they have failed, they feel that they can't do it, what are they going to pass along to their children?
Right?
It's a reflection. So, it starts at home. And I think we have to do something as far as family planning. You can't just try and help the child. You've got to help the whole picture. Everyone that is involved in that child's life. You have to build the adult self-esteem and expectations.
Right. Well, we're having a Children's Day tomorrow. And, part of what we're doing in that has actually part of what I want to talk about tomorrow has to do with that in terms of how we as parents set an environment for our children. And that environment carries with it a lot of expectations about themselves. And it starts very early. I think of when I think of my home, my household that I grew in, there weren't frankly a lot of speeches in terms of this is what you got to do and this is what you want to be and this is what you want to achieve, but there were expectations right from day one. It was just the normal. My mother was a school teacher,
exactly,
right? It didn't have
became
to
a
be
doctor,
said,
right?
So I won't say we came out the womb, but we going to school, it was an automatic from day one kindergarten expectation of achievement and value.
Well, David,
let me say that word again, value to what we did.
Right.
Because, this, if it's not significant, if it's not important, if it's not an expectation, before it became this, this is what you're going to get if you keep working hard. It was just a straight up expectation. You come home from school and you do your schoolwork,
right?
From the simplest to the most complicated, whatever. But it was the routine, right, that we were raised under.
Exactly. And well, also your whole family are very high achievers.
But you know what? I didn't know any of that until I was much later on.
Exactly.
Until I was much older. That's the kind of point I'm making.
But that was the expectation. This is what you saw, not even realizing the influence that it was having.
But again,
that it had on you.
For me, before any of that, before I knew my mother was whatever, and that was in the shadow as I was growing up. But the baseline was, before I even recognized any of that, it was just, this is the standard procedure.
This is what you do.
This is part of life, right? You come home, you do homework.
Right.
I remember times when I was very young and I would come home and be the first one home. And there was no, ducking or dodging. You were, the norm when you got home was you sit down, you do your homework first, and then you chill, then you play, then you watch TV, whatever the case may be. But it was, and it wasn't, get this, it wasn't beaten into us. It was just the norm.
It was the expectation,
right?
It's like me. I grew up seeing, my family, my mom, she worked and did what she had to do. They did what they needed to do to have what you had to have in order to live and survive. And I grew up with that.
Yeah.
I grew up with that work ethic. You get up, you get out, and you do what you need to do, to make a life for yourself. Now, on the other hand, you have another group of children who are not seeing any of these things. They're not seeing these values that you or I or some other people have grown up with. They're coming home to a household that is just not conducive to learning.
I think, the key word you said there was values.
Yes.
Because we need to understand that we establish values in and around children from a very, very early age.
Right.
And then we work to maintain those values.
Right.
As
and
we go.
And you grow up and you're seeing people that are home every day doing nothing. What do you think these children are going to, what are they learning? That's what they're learning. No ambition.
And so, you got two sides to that. And your brother's on, hey man, Bishop's on,
hey.
And so looking at another side of it, you have everybody.
That's what I'm just saying. That's what we're talking about.
Everybody is not necessarily brilliant.
Right.
Right. So you're a parent, hypothetically, you weren't an exceller, right? But that doesn't mean you don't still build those values into your children.
Exactly.
Right. And so one of the things I think we have to understand as parents is the responsibility to set up the standards for our future, for the future of our children.
Exactly.
Right. And we have to start that early. And I know there's a lot of things that can get in the way. A lot of people feel like I have to work so much, I'm not around, blah, blah. But the point I was just making, I alluded to, both of my parents worked. When I was young, I was the first one home. In Buffalo, getting off the bus, my brother came in shortly after I did, but oftentimes I was the first one in the door, and it wasn't like they had to be there to tell me, because they had already trained me from the days before I remember.
Right.
I'm talking about the days I do remember. From the days before I remember, they had already instilled this into me. So by the time of what I remember, it was already typical there and normal.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's what happened with my niece. I have a niece that is a doctor, and I have a niece that is a nurse practitioner. And I asked them, I said, what do you remember growing up about me and grandma and other? What did you get from us? What did you feel right now? What do you feel about growing up with us? And in their language, in my niece's language, she said, y'all were getting it,
right?
And in that language, you were getting it, meaning she saw us going to work. She saw me go to work and school, and both full-time and graduate. She saw grandma, she saw grandpa, she saw us getting out and doing there were no lazy people in our household.
Well, again,
and that helped them to achieve.
So another point made ties to that, because, the point of where you see it, where you get it from, what you follow, right? We're talking about children, comments about children who are seeing that hustle on the street.
Yes.
And so they're following that. It's just a matter of where they're getting it from. If they're not getting it from home, the question is, are these values being driven into the children? What are they following? If they're not getting it, there's a void at home, then yes, they can easily be picked up elsewhere.
Right.
And we live in a dangerous time, all the way from the city to the suburbs, by the fact that our children are influenced now by so much more than just us.
Yes.
Think about it. Before the days of internet, before the days of television, it was you and your neighbors for a good portion of their life, right? And now it's you, it's internet, it's television, it's neighbors, it's school friends. You have all these other influences. Even in our best day, parents are outnumbered, right? So you have them kind of cocooned for a certain amount of time, and that time has shrunk. You got them cocooned for a certain amount of time, and then that time has shrunk.
Exactly.
So you don't have them until they're 18 anymore. Right. You barely have them past 5 anymore, because by the time they get up to like 8, between 5 and 8, they're getting exposure to other things.
Right.
And if you're in a household, for example, where the parental support is void,
right,
then even earlier than that, they're sponges. They're looking to see what they can get. So mom and dad aren't home. There isn't even a mom and dad at home, and whichever one is there is working like crazy to try and make up for everything.
Right.
So in that void, just like it's being described, you're finding things here, you're finding them there, you're listening to what your friends are doing. What's your normal? If I don't have one, you tell me yours.
Tell me what you do.
And let me pick up out of that.
Exactly.
Or what's happening in the streets if you're out on the streets. Every child is on a search for identity. Every child.
Yes.
And the question is where they are
going to get that from,
and aligning that from.
Exactly. I was watching Quincy Jones's documentary. The musician, composer, whatever. I was watching his documentary. Okay, well, just saying, for those, you have to clarify for people that may not. But anyway,
somewhere in the world.
Somewhere. I was watching that, and he said that he wanted to be a gangster up until he turned 11 years old. Because before he turned 11 years old, that's all that he saw.
Okay, meaning that's what he saw around him.
That's what he saw around him. That was his environment.
That's the environment.
His environment. He was around thugs and gangsters. When he turned, so that's what he wanted to be. When he turned 11 years old, he said he went someplace, some building, and there was a piano. And he said he played around with the keys. And he became interested in music. Then he started seeing some of his era. He started seeing some of the greats, the musicians, Dizzy Gillespie, the big bands, Miles Davis and all of them. He wanted to be like them after 11 years old, because he hadn't seen that kind of class and that kind of brilliance. And he said, that is what I wanted to be. So at 11 years old, his mindset changed.
Well, especially
because
back
he
then.
was exposed.
But think about it, even and back in
different.
that time frame, that was a lot of the draw even to gangsters, because there was a flamboyance to it.
Yes, that's what
right?
he said.
There was a way that they dressed. You know, the ones that were successful,
right?
You know, they dressed a certain way. The same, you know, Muslims took the same kind of concept. They took young men off the streets and off their hustle.
Yes,
and they taught them to have self-value.
Yes.
Right? They dressed, they got cleaned
they
up,
took him
they
under.
dressed up. And so those things were become attractive, especially if you're in a void. I'm gonna say it again, every child is a sponge.
Yes.
Searching for identity.
Exactly.
And, you know, as parents, our objective is to try and help them find out their true identity, but there are other influences that want to compel them to follow their trend, whatever that is, right? And so we have to help guide them into not just getting stuck into what somebody else is trying to feed into them, unless it's, you know, and we have to distinguish between the good sources and the bad sources. If that parental background isn't there, it leaves a child to whatever they come in contact with. They're going to
fill that void.
Be it a gangster, be it a musician, be it a drug lord, whatever the case may be.
They're going to fill it with something.
They're a sponge. They're they're searching for identity.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a key, and that also ties back to all the stuff we talked about at the beginning about all the violence, what's happening to our young people, breaking down of homes, poverty, all these things again are kindling in this fire that's setting itself up. And the fear is, if we don't get some kind of handle on turning this around, that there could be a massive fire. And we're just seeing the beginnings of what could be coming up. You know, so we got a lot of work to do amongst all the different groups. Thanks again to all the groups that were involved in the event this afternoon. Even though we didn't put it on, we're just glad to be a part of it and glad to see that type of thing happening.
Exactly.
And hopefully more will take place, and we can find some real opportunities to change lives and to turn, not just individuals, but turn this whole momentum around. And bring value back into this young generation, so that they can really become something and strive for something greater.
Yes.
So our time is up. Good conversation as always. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for those who've been on and commented and been with us for a little bit of time. Obviously, of course, we'll be back next week with more, depending on what happens that week. That's how we make up what we're going to talk about. If you have something you'd like to hear us talk about, feel free to share that as well. And, you know, we'll do our best to try and line that up with some good conversation that happens as well. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, we are having our Children's Day at Destiny Preparation. So if you are here in Rochester, it is Children's Day tomorrow. Looking forward to having a great time with all the young people coming back, relaunching our children's church taking place during service, the DPC Youth Avengers, and real nice program that's been put together for that. Should be a lot of fun for the kids. And we're going to do some things with the parents, and we're going to pray for all the children. It's very important to me. This probably goes back to my old school days, but you know, it was very important to me that from a spiritual perspective that we pray over our children. You know, and there are a lot of, as we've seen what's happening with these generations, a lot of kids being born and they're not being born connected to church. They're not even being prayed for in the church. They're not being blessed. We don't christen them. We don't baptize them as children, but we believe in giving them to the Lord and praying over them, consecrating them before God. And so if your children, if you're in Rochester, your children have never been prayed for, listen, tomorrow is your opportunity to come, bring your kids. They're going to have a great time. You're going to have a great time. And we are going to spiritually pray for them as well. So it's not too late. Come tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. in Rochester, 1405 Lyle Avenue, and join us in that. And it's going to be a really, really great service. That's happening tomorrow. And then back to everything happened during the week. Listen, we got a great Bible class going on Wednesday. People are real excited about what we've been talking about. We've been in this concept of mindset, getting our mindset right, ready for success, ready for overcoming, for achieving. I think we're going to stay there a little bit longer. So don't miss it. That's Wednesday coming up at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. So lots going on. Stay connected to the Facebook page. We got some other announcements that'll be coming up soon as well. Hello, Donna.
Hi, Donna. Donna, I agree with you, Donna. Parents worked and you came home from school. Your chores were done and your clothes were hung up.
Right.
You had a routine.
Yep. get your act together.
Get your act together. That's what helps us.
So thanks to all those and brother-in-law, being on, all those that are connected up, those that will watch this later. Hope that you get something out of it. Don't forget to leave us a comment and connect up with us next time. All right, y'all, time for us to go. Gonna get ready for tomorrow and more. So we look forward to seeing everybody again next week and perhaps tomorrow morning as well. God bless everybody. Have a good night.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Good night.
We serve a mighty God. We serve a holy God.